Hello, this video is all about naming covalent compounds. The first thing you need to know is that there are these prefixes we use in covalent compounds to say how many of the different elements there are. So 1 is mono, 2 is di, 3 is tri, 4 is tetra, 5 is penta, 6 is hexa, 7 is hepta, 8 is octa. There are actually more than that even, 9 is nona, etc., etc. But the thing is, we're just going to stick with small compounds that have 8 or under. That way we keep things pretty simple. The thing is, we say here up at the top it explains some rules. So like, for the first element, we don't have to say how many there are if there's only one. So as an example, on this first example here, we've got CO2. There's one carbon there, so we just say carbon. All right, and then there are 2 oxygens, so we say dioxide. So there's this rule where if there's only one of the first element, we don't have to say monocarbon. In this case, we just say carbon dioxide. However, if there's only one of the second element, we have to say mono. So if you go down, for example, to number 3 here, H2, that we've got 2 hydrogens there, so we can call it dihydrogen. All right, and there's 1 oxygen, so it's kind of like monooxide, but we say it really fast and it kind of slurs into just monoxide. All right, so there's some changing in spelling there that happens with the fact that we slur those letters together. So it's just dihydrogen monooxide or monoxide. And so if there is just one of the second element in it, we do have to use the prefix mono. Other than that, we're just saying how many of each thing there are. So, and it always ends in, the first one is just the name of the element, the second one ends in IDE. So for number 2 here, there's just 1 sulfur there, so we call it sulfur. Sulfur. And there are 2 oxygens, so we call it dioxide. So many of these are oxides. I don't know why on the sheet, but it's generally like the same rule. Okay, so N2O3, we say how many nitrogens there are, so it's dinitrogen. And then there's 3 oxygens, so trioxide. N2O4, that's dinitrogen. And then O4 is tetroxide. So this is another one of those things where tetra and oxide kind of slur into one another, so we just say tetroxide instead of tetraoxide. Because if you say tetraoxide fast, it just slurs into tetroxide anyway, so they just change the spelling. All right, PCl3, that's phosphorus. And there's 3 chlorines, so trichloride. NH3, nitrogen. And that's trihydride. P2O5, there's 2 P's, so this is diphosphorus. And there's 5 oxygens, so pent, P-E-N-T, pentoxide. So that's kind of how that goes. I'm not going to go through all the other ones on the practice because I think that you've seen enough examples of these that you kind of get the idea. So the only thing that's a little bit confusing is if there's only one of the first element, you don't use mono, but if there's one of the second element, you do use mono. So be careful there. The prefix mono only gets applied to the second element. So going through here, looking at these names, I'm going to go through and find the formulas. So silicon dioxide, silicon is Si, dioxide says O2. Silicon tetrafluoride, this one then is Si, and then tetrafluoride, that's F4. Sulfur trioxide, sulfur is S, trioxide says 3 oxygens. Iodine pentafluoride, that's iodine is I, pentafluoride, that's F5. Oxygen dichloride, that's OCl2. Nitrogen monoxide, that's just N and then O. Xenon tetrafluoride, xenon is Xe. Tetrafluoride, that's F4. Nitrogen trihydride, that is N, and then trihydride, H3. All right, so that is how that works. And again, I could go through more of these examples, but I think that you probably have a good idea of how this works. Maybe I'll just do one here, number 13, that has a prefix on the first one. So it says tetraphosphorus trisulfide for number 13. Tetraphosphorus is P4, all right. Trisulfide, that is S3. So P4S3, tetraphosphorus trisulfide. Alrighty. So again, hopefully you have a good idea of that. If you want to check the rest of these, I'll put a key to this online that has all of the answers, and so you can look that over. And as always, if you have any questions, make sure you come in and ask.